Captain Do-hyun stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn his eyes fixed on the vast emptiness of space before him. The ship was the pride of the Galactic Coalition's fleet, a massive vessel designed for exploration and diplomacy. Today, however, they were on a routine patrol through the Andromeda sector, a quiet region of space far from the busy trade routes. "Captain, we're picking up an unusual signal," said Jae-won, the communications officer. Her fingers moved quickly across her control panel. "It's faint, but it seems to be repeating." Do-hyun walked over to her station. "What kind of signal?" "I'm not sure yet. It's using an old frequency." "Very old." Jae-won's brow furrowed as she worked to clean up the transmission. "Wait, I think it's an SOS." The bridge fell silent. The SOS was one of the oldest distress calls in the galaxy, used by countless species across thousands of years. But in this remote sector, an SOS was unexpected. "Can you trace it?" Do-hyun asked. Jae-won nodded. "The signal is coming from Sector 7B, near the edge of unclaimed space, about 3 light hours from here." Do-hyun turned to his first officer. "Ta-jun, what do we know about that area?" Ta-jun consulted his screen. "It's empty space, Captain. No registered colonies or stations. The closest outpost is the research facility on Nix 4, but that's 2 sectors away." "Could it be a trap?" asked Min, the security chief. His hand rested casually on his weapon. "The Vraxian horde has been active in neighboring sectors. They've used fake distress signals before." Do-hyun considered this. The Vraxians were cunning enemies, known for their brutality and deception. But the Galactic Coalition had a strict code. All distress calls must be answered, no matter the risk. "Ji-won, can you tell anything about the ship sending the signal?" Do-hyun asked. Jae-won shook her head. "The signal is weak. Very basic, just the SOS pattern repeating." "But—" She paused, her eyes widening. "Captain, I've analyzed the frequency pattern. It matches old Earth protocols." A heavy silence fell over the bridge. Earth, home to humans, a species that most of the galaxy avoided. "Humans?" Ta-jun looked concerned. "That's impossible. They don't have ships that can travel this far from their solar system." The Galactic Coalition had classified Earth as a Class 3 civilization centuries ago. Humans were considered too unpredictable, too aggressive for full galactic integration. Most species gave Earth a wide berth, and the Coalition enforced a strict non-interference policy. Earth's solar system was effectively quarantined. "Apparently they do now," Do-hyun said quietly. He walked back to his command chair and sat down, thinking. The Coalition rules were clear: no contact with Earth. But the distress call couldn't be ignored. "Captain," Ta-jun said carefully, "if this is truly a human ship, we should contact Coalition Command before proceeding. The Earth Containment Directive prohibits any interaction." Do-hyun nodded slowly. "Send a message to Command, but also set a course for the signal's origin. If someone needs help, we can't wait for bureaucracy." "Yes, sir," Ta-jun replied, though his expression showed his concern. "Min, prepare a security team. Full protective gear. We don't know what we're walking into." "Understood, Captain." As the Eternal Dawn changed course, Do-hyun pulled up the Coalition database on humans. The information was outdated, with most studies being over a century old. Humans were described as a young species, technically capable but emotionally volatile. They waged wars among themselves over resources, territory, and abstract concepts like ideology. Yet they also created beautiful art, music, and literature. They were a contradiction. "Captain," called Jae-won, "I've cleaned up the signal. There's a voice message attached to the SOS." "Let's hear it," Do-hyun ordered. The bridge speakers crackled with static. Then a calm female voice came through. "This is Commander Subin of the Korean Space Agency vessel Handul. Our ship has suffered critical damage from an unknown spatial anomaly. Life support systems failing. 6 crew members on board. If anyone receives this message, please respond. The message repeated once before fading back to static. They sound professional, Taijun remarked, surprise evident in his voice. What did you expect? Asked Jaiwon. Screaming? Do-hyun silenced them with a raised hand. How long will it take us to reach them? At maximum speed. 4 hours, replied Yuna, the ship's navigator. Make it 3, Do-hyun ordered. Captain, Taijun said quietly, I must formally note my objection to this course of action. The directive is clear. Do-hyun nodded. Noted. But the Galactic Charter is also clear. Article 7 states that all ships must respond to distress calls regardless of origin. The Charter predates the Earth Containment Directive, and therefore takes precedence. Taijun didn't argue further, though his concerns remained visible on his face. 3 hours later, the Eternal Dawn dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the coordinates of the distress signal. The massive ship's sensors immediately began scanning the area. I'm detecting a small vessel, reported the sensor officer. Definitely not Coalition design. It appears damaged. Minimal power signatures. On screen, ordered Do-hyun. The main view screen showed a small, sleek ship drifting slowly through space. Its hull was scorched in several places, and one section appeared to have been torn open and sealed with emergency measures. Writing was visible on the side. Korean Space Agency, followed by HANEUL. Life signs. Do-hyun asked. 6. Weak but stable. Do-hyun stood up. Ji-won, can you establish communication? Ji-won worked at her panel. I'm sending a message in their language. Our translators should be able to handle it. After a moment, the view screen flickered and showed the interior of the damaged ship. A woman in a dark uniform sat in what appeared to be the command chair. Her face was tired, with dark circles under her eyes, but her posture remained straight and alert. This is Commander Subin of the KSA Hanul*, she said, though she was clearly exhausted. Her voice remained steady. Thank you for responding to our distress call. Do-hyun stepped forward. I am Captain Do-hyun of the Galactic Coalition vessel Eternal Dawn*. We received your SOS and came to offer assistance. Subin's eyes widened slightly, the only sign of her shock at seeing an alien for the first time. She recovered quickly. Captain, our ship suffered severe damage while investigating an anomaly at the edge of our solar system. We were thrown here, wherever here is. Our engines are offline, and our life support systems are failing. We have perhaps 12 hours of oxygen left. Do-hyun was impressed by her composure. We can help. Prepare your crew for transfer to our ship. Understood. And thank you. As the communication ended, Taijun approached Do-hyun. Captain, Command has responded to our message. They've ordered us to return to base immediately. No contact with humans. Do-hyun sighed. Too late for that. Sir, we could be court-martialed for this. Probably, Do-hyun agreed. But I won't leave them to die. Prepare medical bay for 6 human patients, and inform our crew. These are the first humans most of them will have ever seen. I expect them to be treated with respect. Yes, Captain, Taijun replied, his expression softening slightly. As the Eternal Dawn moved closer to the damaged human ship, Do-hyun couldn't help but wonder what consequences this encounter would bring. The Galactic Coalition had kept their distance from Earth for centuries, watching but never interfering. Today, that policy would end. He had no way of knowing that this simple rescue mission would change everything the galaxy thought it knew about humanity. Commander Subin watched through the viewport as the massive alien ship moved closer to the Hanul*. The vessel was unlike anything she had ever seen, smooth and elegant, with sections that seemed to glow with an inner light. It was at least 20 times larger than her small exploration ship. Is everyone recording this? She asked, looking at her crew. Lieutenant Han, the ship's engineer, nodded as he adjusted a small camera on his uniform. "Yes, Commander. Though I still can't believe what I'm seeing." "Believe it?" Subin said. "We've just made first contact with an alien species." The 5 other crew members of the Henul gathered on the bridge, their faces showing a mix of fear, excitement, and wonder. They had been drifting for 3 weeks since the spatial anomaly had damaged their ship and thrown them far beyond their planned course. Their oxygen was running low, and the temperature had been dropping as power failed. Death had seemed certain until the alien ship appeared. "Do you think they're really going to help us?" asked Dr. Kang, the ship's medical officer. Her normally confident voice now held a note of uncertainty. "They answered our distress call," Subin replied. "That's a good sign." A soft chime sounded from the communications panel. "Commander," said Officer Lee, "they're sending docking instructions. They want us to prepare for transfer." Subin took a deep breath. "Very well. Han, can you get the ship ready for docking?" Han shook his head. "Our docking system is damaged. They'll have to use some other method." As if in answer to this problem, a soft blue light began to fill the bridge. Subin felt a strange tingling sensation all over her body. "What's happening?" asked Dr. Kang, her voice rising in alarm. Before anyone could answer, the blue light intensified, and Subin felt herself dissolving. For a brief, terrifying moment, she thought she was dying. Then, just as quickly, the sensation passed, and she found herself standing in a large, brightly lit room. She looked around in shock. Her entire crew was there with her, along with their essential equipment and personal items. They were no longer on the Henul. "Teleportation," whispered Han, his eyes wide with amazement. "They teleported us." Across the room, a door slid open, and several figures entered. Leading them was the captain she had spoken with earlier, flanked by others in similar uniforms. They looked almost human, but with subtle differences. Their skin had a faint bluish tint, and their eyes were larger and more widely spaced. "Commander Subin," Captain Du-hyun said, approaching her. "Welcome aboard the Eternal Dawn *. I am Captain Du-hyun." Subin straightened her posture and gave a formal bow. "Thank you for rescuing us, Captain. We are in your debt." Do-hyun looked surprised by her formality, but nodded in acknowledgement. "This is my first officer, Taijun, and our medical officer, Yuna." Yuna stepped forward, holding a small device. "With your permission, I would like to scan your crew for injuries and to ensure our environment is suitable for your physiology." Subin hesitated, then nodded. "That's acceptable." As Yuna moved among the human crew with her scanning device, Subin noticed the guarded expressions of the alien officers. They were keeping their distance, watching carefully. "You seem surprised by us," Subin said to Du-hyun. The captain tilted his head slightly. "I am. Your composure is unexpected. Most species experience great shock upon their first encounter with alien life." Subin gave a small smile. "We've always believed we weren't alone in the universe. And after what we've been through these past weeks, I think we're just grateful to be alive." "A practical perspective," Du-hyun said. "Many of my crew have never seen humans before. Your species has a certain reputation in the galaxy." "What kind of reputation?" Han asked, joining the conversation. Do-hyun seemed to choose his words carefully. "Humans are known to be technically capable, but unpredictable. The Galactic Coalition has observed Earth for centuries, but maintained a policy of non-interference." "You've been watching us?" Subin asked, surprised. "From a distance," Du-hyun confirmed. "Earth is classified as a Class 3 civilization, not yet ready for full galactic integration." This information stunned Subin. All these years, humanity had been searching the stars for signs of intelligent life, unaware that they were being observed and evaluated. "Captain," Yuma interrupted, approaching with her scanning device. "I've completed my examination. The humans appear to be suffering from mild radiation exposure, dehydration, and fatigue, but nothing life-threatening. However, she hesitated. Go on, Do-hyun encouraged. Their genetic structure is unusual, more complex than our records indicated, and their neural patterns show remarkable adaptability. Do-hyun nodded. Thank you, Yuna. Please see that they receive appropriate medical care. Yuna led the human crew to the medical bay, where they were given food, water, and treatment for their radiation exposure. Soo-bin noticed that everything was designed for comfort and healing, with no sign of restraints or security measures. Whatever the aliens thought of humans, they weren't treating them as threats. After the medical treatments, Soo-bin was escorted to a conference room where Captain Do-hyun waited with several officers. A large view screen showed an image of the damaged asterisk, Hanul asterisk. Your ship has an interesting design, Do-hyun said. Our engineers are curious about several aspects of it. Soo-bin approached the screen. The asterisk Hanul asterisk is an experimental deep space exploration vessel. It's the first of its kind, designed to study the outer regions of our solar system. What propulsion system does it use? Asked an alien officer who had not been introduced. An experimental fusion drive, Soo-bin answered honestly. It creates controlled microfusion reactions to generate thrust. The aliens exchanged glances. That's not possible, said the officer. Fusion drives of that size would require containment technology beyond what Earth currently possesses. Han, who had joined them in the conference room, stepped forward. We solved the containment problem by using layered magnetic fields and a new alloy developed specifically for the purpose. It's not perfect, but it works. Do-hyun looked intrigued. May we examine your engine more closely? Soo-bin nodded. Of course, though it was damaged in the anomaly. What was this anomaly that you encountered? Do-hyun asked. Soo-bin described how the asterisk Hanul asterisk had detected unusual energy readings near the orbit of Neptune, and how they had gone to investigate. It looked like a tear in space. When we got too close, it pulled us in and spat us out here, wherever here is. You're in the Andromeda sector, Do-hyun said, approximately 17 light-years from Earth. This revelation silenced the humans. They had traveled farther than any human in history, by accident. Is there any way for us to get home? Soo-bin finally asked. Do-hyun's expression became troubled. That's complicated. By rescuing you, I've already violated the Earth Containment Directive. My superiors have ordered me to return to Coalition Command immediately. Without us? Soo-bin asked. No, with you. But there may be consequences. The Coalition has strict policies regarding interference with developing worlds. As if on cue, a chime sounded, and Ta Jun's voice came over the ship's communication system. Captain, urgent message from Coalition Command. Priority Alpha. Do-hyun excused himself and left the conference room. The remaining alien officers looked uncomfortable. What aren't you telling us? Soo-bin asked them. One of the officers, an older alien with silver streaks in his hair, sighed. The truth is, human, your presence here creates a diplomatic crisis. Some members of the Coalition believe that any contact with Earth could be dangerous. Dangerous to whom? Han asked. To the galactic community, the officer replied. Your species has a history of violence and territorial expansion that concerns many Coalition members. Before the conversation could continue, Do-hyun returned. His face was grim. Commander Soo-bin, I've been ordered to place you and your crew in secured quarters while we return to Coalition headquarters. There, the Council will decide what to do with you. Are we prisoners? Soo-bin asked quietly. Do-hyun met her eyes. No, but you are now at the center of a situation that could change the future relationship between Earth and the rest of the galaxy. 2 days passed aboard the asterisk Eternal Dawn asterisk as it traveled toward Coalition headquarters. Despite being placed in special quarters, the human crew was treated well. They were given access to certain areas of the ship, always under escort, and many of the alien crew seemed curious about them. Su-bin spent much of her time in conversation with Captain Do-hyun, learning about the Galactic Coalition and sharing information about Earth. Han worked with the ship's engineers, explaining aspects of the asterisk, Hanul's asterisk design, while Dr. Kang exchanged medical knowledge with Yuna. On the third day, as the humans ate breakfast in their quarters, the ship suddenly shook violently. Alarms began to sound throughout the vessel. "What's happening?" Su-bin asked the guard stationed outside their door. The young officer looked worried. "I don't know. Stay here." He left quickly, the door locking behind him. Minutes later, the ship rocked again, harder this time. The lights flickered, then dimmed to emergency levels. "I don't like this," Han said, moving to the door and trying to open it. It remained locked. "We're trapped in here." Su-bin pressed the communication panel on the wall. "This is Commander Su-bin. What's happening?" After a moment, Captain Do-hyun's voice came through, sounding strained. "Commander, we're under attack. The Vraxian horde has ambushed us. I must ask you to remain in your quarters for safety." Before Su-bin could respond, another explosion rocked the ship, and the communication cut off. "Vraxian horde?" Officer Lee asked. "Who are they?" "I think they're the enemy Do-hyun mentioned yesterday," Su-bin replied. "A hostile species that attacks coalition ships and outposts." Another violent shake sent them all stumbling. The emergency lights flickered, and a thin stream of smoke began to seep in from a vent. "We can't stay here," Su-bin decided. "Han, can you get that door open?" Han examined the control panel next to the door. "I think so. The locking mechanism is electrical. If I can redirect power." He pulled off the panel cover and began working with the wires inside. Within minutes, the door slid open, revealing an empty corridor filled with smoke. Emergency lights pulsed red along the walls, and distant sounds of shouting could be heard. "We need to find out what's happening," Su-bin said, "and see if we can help." "Help them?" Dr. Kang looked shocked. "They're not our people. This isn't our fight." Su-bin turned to her crew. "They saved our lives. And whatever these Vraxians want, I doubt they'll treat us better than the Coalition has. We're all in danger now." The human crew moved cautiously through the smoke-filled corridors, following the emergency signs toward the bridge. They passed injured crew members being helped to the medical bay, and sections of the ship where hull breaches had been sealed with emergency force fields. When they reached the bridge, they found chaos. Several control stations were damaged, and crew members moved urgently between posts. Captain Do-hyun stood at the center, issuing orders as reports came in from all parts of the ship. He noticed the humans and frowned. "Commander Su-bin, I ordered you to remain in your quarters." "Your ship is under attack, Captain," Su-bin replied. "We want to help. This isn't your battle." "It became our battle when the first shot hit the ship," Su-bin said firmly. "My crew has skills that might be useful." Before Do-hyun could respond, a crew member called out, "Captain, 3 Vraxian ships are moving to surround us, and they're broadcasting a signal toward the Nix-4 outpost." Do-hyun's face paled. "They're targeting the outpost. How many civilians are there?" "Nearly 4,000, including children," Taijun replied grimly. "The outpost's defenses won't hold against a full Vraxian attack." Do-hyun looked torn. "We can't abandon them, but our ship is damaged. We can't fight all 3 Vraxian vessels." Su-bin stepped forward. "What are these Vraxians? What do they want?" Taijun answered, his voice tight with anger. "They're biological warriors. They don't conquer, they infect. They use toxic weapons that attack the nervous system. Once they take a world or station, they transform it to suit their needs." "And the people there?" asked Dr. Kang. "Become hosts for their parasites, or die," Taijun said quietly. The bridge fell silent as this information sank in. Then a new alarm sounded. "Captain," called an officer. The Vraxians are transmitting on all frequencies. They're demanding our surrender. Let me hear it, Du-hyun ordered. A harsh, clicking voice filled the bridge. Coalition vessel, you have violated Vraxian space. Surrender your ship and crew. Resistance will result in your destruction and the cleansing of Outpost Nix-4. We're nowhere near Vraxian territory, Taijun muttered. They're lying to justify the attack. Do-hyun turned to his weapons officer. Status of our defenses. Main weapons are at 40% capacity, shields at 63%. We've lost 2 engine pods, and our maneuverability is compromised. Do-hyun closed his eyes briefly, thinking, we can't outrun them, and we can't outfight them, but we can't let them take the outpost. He looked at his crew. Prepare for battle. We'll draw them away from Nix-4 and give the outpost time to evacuate. Han stepped forward suddenly. Captain, your ship uses quantum field propulsion. Right. Yes, Do-hyun replied, surprised. How did you know that? I observed the engine signatures. If you are losing power, it's because the quantum field is destabilizing. I might be able to help restore it. Do-hyun looked skeptical. Our engineers are already working on it. Let him try, Subin urged. Han is the best engineer Earth has. He designed parts of our fusion drive himself. After a moment's hesitation, Do-hyun nodded. Very well. Ta-jun, take him to engineering. As Han left with Ta-jun, Subin turned to the captain. What can the rest of us do? Do-hyun studied her thoughtfully. The Vraxians use biological weapons. Dr. Kang, could you work with our medical team? Your human physiology might give you insights we lack. Dr. Kang nodded firmly. I'll do what I can. And you, Commander? Do-hyun asked Subin. I'd like to stay here, if you'll allow it. On Earth, I specialized in tactical operations before becoming a ship commander. Do-hyun hesitated, then gestured to an empty station. Very well. You can observe from there. As Subin took her place, the ship shook again as Vraxian weapons fire struck the shields. They're moving into attack formation, reported the sensor officer. All 3 ships are targeting us now. That's good, Do-hyun said. It means they're not attacking the outpost yet. Set course away from Nix-4, full speed. The Eternal Dawn moved away from the outpost, drawing the Vraxian ships with it. But the damage to its engines made it slow, and the enemy vessels began to close in. In engineering, Han worked frantically alongside the alien technicians, applying his knowledge of fusion systems to the damaged quantum engines. In the medical bay, Dr. Kang studied the Vraxian toxins, looking for weaknesses that human biology might exploit. On the bridge, Subin watched the tactical display, her mind racing. The coalition ship was powerful, but outnumbered and damaged. They needed an advantage. Captain, she said suddenly, these Vraxians, they use biological weapons because their own ships and systems are partly biological, correct? Do-hyun looked at her. Yes, their technology is grown, not built. Then they must be vulnerable to certain forms of radiation, Subin reasoned. On Earth, we discovered that biological systems can be disrupted by specific radiation frequencies. If we could modify your weapons. Do-hyun's eyes widened. That might work, but it would require reprogramming our entire weapons array. I can help with that, Officer Lee volunteered. I was a systems programmer before joining the space program. As they began working on the weapons systems, a message came from engineering. Han's voice sounded excited. Captain, we've found a way to stabilize the quantum field. We can restore engine power to 85%, but it will require redirecting power from non-essential systems. Do it, Do-hyun ordered. Moments later, the lights dimmed further as power was rerouted to the engines. The ship lurched, then began to move faster, opening distance from the pursuing Vraxian vessels. It's working, the helm officer reported. We're outrunning them. But their relief was short-lived. On the tactical display, one of the Vraxian ships broke off pursuit and turned back toward the outpost. They've split their forces, Ta Jun said grimly. 2 are still pursuing us, but 1 is heading for Nix-4. Do Hyun's face showed his conflict. They could escape now, saving his ship and crew, including the humans, or they could turn and fight, risking everything to save the outpost. Su-bin watched him, understanding his dilemma all too well. Captain, she said quietly, what would you do if those were human lives at stake on that outpost? Do Hyun met her eyes. The same thing I'm going to do now. He turned to his helm officer. Bring us about. We're going back. The Eternal Dawn turned sharply, its engines straining as it raced back toward the Nix-4 outpost. On the bridge, tension filled the air. Everyone knew they were heading into a dangerous battle. The lone Vraxian ship will reach the outpost in 12 minutes, reported the sensor officer. The other 2 are turning to intercept us. Captain Do Hyun nodded. Status of the weapons modifications. Officer Lee looked up from his workstation. Almost complete, Captain. We're adjusting the radiation frequency now. We need a plan, Su-bin said, studying the tactical display. Even with modified weapons, we're still outnumbered. Do Hyun agreed. Ideas. Su-bin pointed to the display. The Vraxian ships have a distinctive shape, wide in the middle, narrow at the ends. If their ships are partly biological, those wide sections might be more vulnerable. We should target those areas. And we should split their attention, she continued. Right now, they think they have the advantage. But what if we separated your ship into sections? Separated? Do Hyun looked surprised. How did you know the Eternal Dawn can separate? Su-bin smiled slightly. The design suggested. There are clear connection points where sections could detach. Do Hyun nodded, impressed. You're correct. We can split into 3 sections for tactical maneuvers. He turned to his crew. Prepare for ship separation. Command section will head directly for the outpost. The 2 hull sections will engage the pursuing Vraxian vessels. As the crew rushed to prepare, a message came from the medical bay. Dr. Kane's voice sounded excited. Captain, I've analyzed the Vraxian toxin samples. Their neurotoxins target specific receptors in coalition species. Human neurology is different enough that we would be partially resistant. This news changed everything. Do Hyun looked at Su-bin thoughtfully. Commander, would your crew be willing to lead boarding parties? If the Vraxians release their toxins, your people might remain functional while our troops would be incapacitated. Su-bin didn't hesitate. Yes, we'll help. Do Hyun sent orders throughout the ship. The humans were each assigned to different teams, with Su-bin joining the captain's group headed for the outpost. Han went with the engineering team on one hull section, while Dr. Kang prepared medical countermeasures with Yuna. Ship separation in 30 seconds, announced Ta Jun. All crew to secure positions. The Eternal Dawn shuddered as massive clamps released. The ship split into 3 distinct sections, each now operating independently. The command section, with Do Hyun and Su-bin aboard, accelerated toward the outpost, while the 2 hull sections moved to engage the pursuing Vraxian ships. We'll reach the outpost just minutes after the Vraxian ship, Ta Jun reported, but they'll have time to begin their attack. Contact the outpost, Do Hyun ordered. Tell them to seal all entrances and activate emergency protocols. On the view screen, they could see the Nix-4 outpost, a large, ring-shaped station orbiting a small moon. The single Vraxian ship was approaching it rapidly, already firing weapons that left glowing green marks on the station's shields. Their shields are failing, reported the sensor officer. The Vraxians are preparing boarding pods. Do Hyun turned to Su-bin. We need to stop those boarding pods. If they reach the station, they'll release their toxins into the life support system. Can we shoot them down? Su-bin asked. Not all of them. There are too many, and they're small targets. Su-bin studied the tactical display again, then had an idea. Captain, does your ship have space suits that would fit humans? 20 minutes later, Su-bin found herself floating in space, wearing a modified Coalition spacesuit. With her were 5 Coalition soldiers and Officer Lee. They had launched from the command section in small, fast pods of their own, aiming to intercept the Vraxian boarding parties before they reached the station. The Vraxian pods were ugly, organic-looking things, pulsing with an inner green light as they moved toward the outpost. Su-bin maneuvered her pod into position, then activated the targeted EMP device that Han had quickly designed before they separated. "Ready," she said into her comm. "On my mark. Now." All the human-piloted pods fired their EMPs simultaneously. The electromagnetic pulses washed over the Vraxian boarding pods, causing them to twitch and spin wildly in space. Many went dark, drifting harmlessly away from the station. "It worked," Lee shouted excitedly. Their biological systems couldn't handle the pulse. But some Vraxian pods continued on, landing on the outpost's outer hull and beginning to burn their way inside. "We need to board the station," Su-bin told Do-hyun over the comm. "Some Vraxians got through." "Understood," the captain replied. "We're engaging their ship now. Protect the civilians." Su-bin and her team docked at the station and rushed inside. They found chaos. Civilians running in panic, station security trying to organize defenses. In the distance, they could hear strange, clicking sounds, the Vraxians advancing through the corridors. "They'll head for the life support center," said one of the Coalition soldiers. "If they reach it, they can release their toxins throughout the station. Then we stop them before they get there," Su-bin replied. She turned to Lee. "We need to reach life support first. Is there another way?" "Maintenance tunnels," Lee suggested. "If they're anything like our ships, there should be service passages the Vraxians might not know about." They found an access panel and crawled into narrow tunnels that ran between the walls. Moving quickly, they reached the life support center just as the first Vraxians arrived at the main door. Su-bin got her first look at the enemy. Tall, insect-like creatures with multiple limbs and compound eyes. They carried organic-looking weapons that pulsed with the same green light as their ships and pods. "Get ready," she whispered to her team. "When they break through that door, we attack from behind." When the Vraxians blasted through the door, Su-bin's team was ready. They opened fire, their weapons modified with the radiation frequency Han had discovered. The effect was immediate. The Vraxians screeched in pain, their exoskeletons cracking under the specialized radiation. But the aliens were tough. One turned and fired its weapon, releasing a cloud of green mist. The Coalition soldiers dropped immediately, paralyzed by the neurotoxin. But Su-bin and Lee, though they felt dizzy and sick, remained standing. "It's working," Lee said, his voice strained. "We're resistant." The battle was fierce but brief. Su-bin and Lee, along with the human-led teams in other parts of the station, managed to push the Vraxians back. When the aliens realized their toxins weren't fully effective against these strange new beings, they began to retreat. Outside, the fight continued. The Eternal Dawn's command section, with Han's engine modifications, moved with surprising speed and agility. The weapons, adjusted to the specific radiation frequency, tore through the Vraxian ship's biological hull. Meanwhile, the 2 hull sections of the Eternal Dawn had engaged the pursuing Vraxian vessels. Though outnumbered, the Coalition ships used Su-bin's targeting strategy, focusing on the wider midsections. One Vraxian ship exploded in a burst of green fire, while the other turned to flee. Seeing their advantage lost, the remaining Vraxians abandoned their attack on the outpost. Their damaged ship pulled away, limping into space with the Coalition vessels in pursuit. Inside the station, Su-bin helped the paralyzed Coalition soldiers. Dr. Kang arrived with the medical team, administering antidotes she had helped develop. "The station is secure," Su-bin reported to Do-hyun. "Casualties are minimal." "Well done, Commander," Do-hyun replied, real respect in his voice. 3 days later, the Eternal Dawn had reassembled itself and was docked at the Nix 4 outpost for repairs. The human crew, no longer under guard, moved freely among the coalition personnel who now looked at them with new respect and curiosity. In a conference room on the outpost, Su Bin and her crew met with Captain Du Hyun and several high-ranking coalition officials who had arrived to assess the situation. "What you did here was extraordinary," said Admiral Gill, the highest-ranking officer present. "You risked your lives for people you had never met, from a society that had classified your species as potentially dangerous." "It was the right thing to do," Su Bin said simply. Admiral Gill exchanged looks with the other officials. "The Coalition Council has been in emergency session, discussing your case. You've forced us to reconsider our assessment of humanity. The Earth Containment Directive has been suspended," Admiral Gill continued. "We believe it's time for formal contact with your world." Su Bin could hardly believe what she was hearing. "You mean, we can go home?" "Yes," Du Hyun said with a smile. "I've been authorized to take you back to Earth. But more than that, if your leaders are willing, we would like to establish diplomatic relations. Your species has proven itself in ways we never anticipated." As the meeting concluded, Du Hyun approached Su Bin privately. "You know, when we first received your SOS signal, I almost ignored it. Coalition regulations were very clear." "Why didn't you?" Su Bin asked. Du Hyun considered this. "Because a call for help should transcend politics and prejudice. I made the choice to help you because it was right, not because it was allowed." He smiled. "I'm glad I did. That simple decision may have changed the future of both our peoples." 1 month later, the Eternal Dawn entered Earth's solar system, carrying the crew of the Handul and the first official coalition delegation. As they approached the blue planet, Su Bin stood on the bridge beside Captain Du Hyun. "It's beautiful," Du Hyun said, looking at Earth. "Yes," Su Bin agreed. "And now, thanks to one SOS signal and your decision to answer it, humanity will finally know we're not alone." On screens across Earth, humans were about to receive the most important message in their history. "People of Earth, we come in peace. You are not alone in the universe, and you have much to offer the galactic community."